All right. Well, we'll await the official schedule to go up. I think we probably had it fairly close. So a second, we get it up on the screen. We'll break down our live reactions. But we already talked about the league schedule in high level version of the league schedule to kind of break down what we're thinking on that front. So we're looking forward to kind of going through our predictions here now. Once the schedule gets up on the screen, we've already kind of storyboarded what we think will happen in some of the early games, especially. We'll get into what we think is going to break down into the schedule. How it plays out for the Bills will be fun. But generally speaking, the Bills are still out there making moves, and they're still looking to make their roster better. And guess what? In 2 weeks, the Bills will have the $10.2 million from Trey White. The Bills can tell me whatever they want about needing in-season money. I'm not buying it. I still think that there's something left. Maybe it isn't at the receiver position. Maybe it is. But I do believe that the $10.2 million will be spent to use on this Bills current roster. So we'll have to wait for a couple more shows to see what they do with that $10.2 million dead cap hit, or a dead cap hit that is going to now count that they've been holding for the last couple of months.
So, I think that there are 2 other positions that they could use that on. We'll have to save that conversation for a later date because I do have the schedule here now. So here is a 2024 Buffalo Bills schedule. They do open up at home against Arizona, 1 o'clock on CBS. Then they go to Miami for Thursday Night Football, September 12th at 8:15. And then they return home for Monday Night Football to host Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, and the Jacksonville Jaguars on September 23rd, 7:30 on ESPN.
So it was right. The leak did hit. I believe I don't see any major discrepancies. I don't see any discrepancies on what New England, Jets, New England. So it was officially the schedule. Lots of non-1 o'clock games. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 1 o'clock games. A couple fours in there. The primetime games. Let's see how many primetime games did we get this year, Kevin?
Trying to count that right now. So Miami's 1, Jacksonville 2, Baltimore 3, Jets 4. Now, to these 405 games, the one at Seattle, that's just a 405 game on Fox. Yeah. But I think the one against Kansas City at 425 on CBS, like that's going to be the standalone game. So I think that's technically considered a primetime game.
Yeah, it's close. I'm considering, how about night games? We'll use night games.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
San Fran 5. Yep.
I like that because I didn't want to overdo it this year. I like the 1 o'clock games, especially earlier in the season. That's why I love opening up against the Cardinals at 1 o'clock. And I know that this is a team that deserves a respect, and Josh Allen sells, and people want to see him play. But let's save that for January and hopefully February, because not going to lie, I got a little bit tired last year with all those primetime games.
Like 5's good. Let's look at the let's look at the number of let's look at this late season schedule. Bye week into San Fran, into the Rams, so they're gonna have good weather, into a dome in Detroit, then New England and the Jets, and at New England. So they have a little break there with that weather from the bye through Detroit. They're gonna miss some weather elements, and maybe you're gonna get the best version of Josh Allen in LA and then Detroit. Good times to have both of those games, in my opinion. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. I love that bye week. Is Thanksgiving the 27th or 28th? Because they host San Fran Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I believe that Thanksgiving this year falls on, obviously, Thursday, November 28th.
8th, correct.
Okay, so, I mean, that is perfect because we talked about that gauntlet in the beginning, if you want to call that, between Jacksonville, Baltimore, Houston, the Jets, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy. And this is like the real meat and potatoes here. November 17th against Kansas City, and then they go on the bye, and then San Fran and LA. I mean, that is tough right there, but I love having that bye sandwiched in between.
For sure. What is ESPN doing with their games? Why is one at 7:30 and one at 8:15? Is there a dual Monday night game on week 3? Do you know why? I don't get the 7:30 ESPN game. Is there? I'm assuming a dual game.
Maybe I heard that was going to be a thing, but I don't know the reason for it.
Okay, if anyone knows, is that a dual week? We're so focused on the Bills right now. I'm not breaking down the entire NFL. You can tune into ESPN if you care about other team schedules. We can break those down on a different date. But I'd assume with the 7:30 start time, It's got to be 2 games. There's no other reason to have a 7:30 start game, as that's a weird time. I guess some would argue it's better than 8:15, but I mean, Monday Night Football 8:15. That's just what it's been. That's just kind of what I feel the best at as you look at the schedule. But Kevin, it's time on the show. We're going to put our predictions out there, at least our spring predictions. We'll revisit this in September or August, we'll call it. We'll revisit this in 3 months to see if we have any changes, how the roster looks, and we'll kind of do our part 2 right before the season starts in late August. But let's get into it now. So you got
I think I need a little bit more time to digest this, if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
Let's talk about these opponents a little bit more first before we put some predictions on. Because I think I answered only half your question before, because you were saying that it gets pretty favorable after the bye week going to those warm weather climates in the dome, right?
Correct.
So again, I answered half of it by saying it is tough because you have Kansas City, San Fran, and LA. But on the plus side, you would like to think that the weather is going to be relatively nice in Buffalo on November 17th. And December 1st, for that matter, because it shouldn't be that cold or snowy. I mean, anything can happen, but I think that we should be okay. But then when you think that the weather is going to start to turn, you're in LA and then in a dome in Detroit. So then you just have to worry about those 2 games right around Christmas time, New England and the Jets. And then, okay, I'm just realizing that the last one against New England is to be determined. So that could
week 18 always is, though, remember, because you don't know who's fighting for what playoff spot.
True.
So obviously you could get the Sunday night flex game. We had it last year, but generally speaking, they just will play everybody in contention at a certain time. So I think that's why that one's TBD, but it doesn't look like any Saturday game. So none of those Sunday, Saturday flexes, which they've had, historically in their the last couple of years, they've had those Saturday games against a decent team. Week 3 Monday night. Yep. Jets, Jags, Bills, and Washington Bengals. Woof. Okay. I guess they want to appear to Jaden Daniels. I don't know. Okay. Week 3, Jaden Daniels. Okay.
2 LSU quarterbacks.
I mean, I guess there's some stuff to do there. I don't know about that. They put that one later than ours too. Okay. That's definitely a decision that they made. But it is what it is. Okay. So as you look
realizing too, with RJ's comment here, I didn't even realize Houston is a 1:00 kickoff. I thought
probably because of that Thursday game right after in 4 days. So the Bills probably said, if you're going to put me week 2 on the road on 8:15, we're going at 1:00. I would assume.
Wait, say that again. Which game?
What are you talking about? Houston or which specific?
You said the Thursday game.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about Houston. I thought you said Arizona.
Oh, no. I'm saying I thought they would have wanted to put the Bills and Texans in at least the 4:25 slot because of the whole Diggs thing now.
Well, that would be 5 straight, though. That would
True.
be 5 straight primetime games. I mean, I agree.
Yeah, you're right.
But that one would be that one would be Arizona at 1:00 is because they play Thursday night very shortly after. And then the Houston game at 1:00 would be because they would be 5 in a row. So I'm assuming they're like, all right, CBS wants a good game. CBS bids on games too, guys. I guess in theory that could be CBS 4:15. I mean, sure. But the Bills have a couple CBS 4:15s already. Detroit, Kansas City. Those would be the 2. And they can also put it into the 4:25 slot if they feel like it. But, at some point, they want a primetime 1:00 slot game too. They have to have a national game at 1:00 too. We forget that. They will pick one to air nationally for most networks at 1:00 as well. So,
and another year, second year in a row of playing the Jets in New Jersey for Monday Night Football.
Well, they open up against the Rams, right? Who do they open up against? The 49ers? I can't remember who the Jets open up against.
Yeah, they open up against 49ers. The Bills opened up in New York last year for Monday Night Football in the infamous Aaron Rodgers game. And that was the game that
So they open up against Leonard Floyd again, huh?
Yeah. Rodgers against Floyd.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, there you have it. So we'll see. There's different variations of the schedule going forward. So are you comfortable at least talking game to game if you think the Bills will win? I mean, it doesn't need to be anything serious.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I just wanted to kind of digest a little bit because I didn't even realize, like what RJ said,
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that the Texans is only a 1:00 kickoff. And like you said, they probably didn't want to put the Bills in primetime 5 weeks in a row. So those are like the small nuances that I might miss at first glance.
Yeah, okay. Let's bring it up and just go game to game, and we can talk about it if we need to have a longer talk. That's kind of how we'll spend the majority of our show.
So what do we have them at right now? Are we both at 10-3 or
Yes.
10-4?
10-4. 10-4.
Okay, so we're both on 10-4. I think there's definitely going to be one more loss. Now, here's the thing, though.
I agree.
The Bills always finish strong. So I see it both ways where they can have a letdown against the stingy Patriots or the Jets, right? But they always finish strong. So maybe that goes back to your previous point that they got in Seattle. Maybe that could be their lull. You know, like they lose.
And Detroit. And Detroit.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like that mid-season lull where I could see them losing 2 out of 3. They lose to Seattle, bounce back, beat Miami, but then they lose to Indy. So maybe that 5th loss actually comes from the Seahawks. But for the sake of this, because I don't see the Bills winning more than 12 games this year, I'm going to give them a loss to, we'll say, the Jets. So I have them beating New England twice and losing to the Jets to finish 12-5. And again, you can interchange those. Maybe you throw a loss earlier in the season and a couple more wins later in the season. But I think this is probably a win team this year.
I mean, you're not wrong by assuming that. I don't think they get swept by the Jets, though. I guess you didn't have them getting swept by the Jets. In my prediction, I would have. So I have them beating the Jets. I'm thinking that maybe potentially that end of the year game against New England doesn't matter. And that could be in New England. That could be the one where they take an L in. But I agree with you. I think they end up 5 losses. The more I look at the schedule, the more I'm like, I don't know. People are saying, I don't like this schedule. I don't really mind it. I thought last year's was harder. If I'm really thinking about it, like, I don't mind that finish. Like, yes, that Detroit game is hard. But after the bye, like, I'm not overly that nervous. I think there is a 1 loss in there. Definitely. Like, I guess there could be a second in there, but going 4-2 would be fine with me anyways. I'm already giving him Kevin. I'm already giving a loss to the Jets. I'm already giving him a loss for my prediction in Seattle. I'm already giving him a loss to Indy and Detroit. Like, it's not like we're picking him to go undefeated. So I have him winning these 3 games. I have him winning out in my score prediction, and I didn't know that I would, but I have him going 13-4. But there's very likely that they could drop one of these games, and maybe it's one of those New England games like they did last year. But I got them ultimately getting to the 13-4 mark just because the schedule doesn't, and I'm giving them losses. I guess there's another, they maybe lose to Baltimore in there. I don't really, I already have them splitting with the Jets. I don't really, some people say they're not going to lose to Indy. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not that nervous about this guy. I just think that they are better. I think the Brady offense was good. He's got his pieces now. We'll see if they make one final addition somewhere on the roster. I just don't think whatever this in-season money of $5 million they're going to, I just think that they spend for $3 to $5 million of this minimum to add to a final piece to the roster, Kevin. So, I just think that they go 13-4. That's what I see. I've had some losses in there that I'm not sure they even lose. Maybe swap them out with some wins that I had. I could see yours too. They could drop one of those. I just don't know how much different from 12-5 to 13-5. I just don't see under 12-5.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen. I don't see them above 12-5. That's the thing. So I think that's why I'm going to stay right in the middle and say this could be a 12-win team. Because what was their final record last year? Was it 11-6, right?
Yes. Right after going into the playoffs, correct.
Yeah, because they really had to dig themselves out of that hole. So they only finished with 11 wins. So I think considering that Joe Brady was 6-1 when he took over as offensive coordinator, and to your point, they got a lot of pieces that suit his play calling, I think that gives the Bills that boost. But at the same time, this is a younger team. So I don't know if they can just steamroll these teams, and we're looking at a 13-14 win team. So that's why I'm just going to stay right in the middle and say I think that a 12-5 record is a healthy prediction. So one last look at the 2024 Bills schedule here, and comments are welcome as well. So I guess just to sum up our thoughts, I think that the first 2 weeks are going to be a lot of fun and pretty favorable, and it should be 2 wins for the Bills, but then it's going to be a tough part hosting Gabe Davis and Mitch Morse for Monday Night Football, and Trevor Lawrence, by the way. I keep talking about Gabe and Mitch, but Trevor Lawrence is probably going to have a pretty good season, as well as, Brian Thomas, too. I think maybe you mentioned him, but he was my guy in the draft, and now he comes to Buffalo as well. And then you have to turn around, go to Baltimore for Sunday Night Football, and then you have the emotions with the Houston matchup and Stephon Diggs, and then you go to the Jets. That is like there are 2 meaty parts of the schedule. Those 4 weeks right there from Jacksonville to the Jets, and then from Kansas City to Detroit. Like, that is going to pretty much be the telling point of the Bills season.